Kenny got the call, came in as a structure fire. I turned the radio on. Typically, I write something on the firehouse page for the wives, so if their spouses leave unexpectedly, they have an idea what's going on. I listened to it for quite a while, and I was getting ready to turn it off because it sounded like the scene was under control and they were done, and that's when I heard the mayday.
So I heard the call come through. Looking out the living room window of my house, I could see the glow of the house. Knew that this thing was well involved at this point.
I arrived on scene and found fire on the Alpha side of the house, as well as fire coming out the Charlie side first floor windows during my 360.
When we got to the scene, we married up with one of the engine crews on scene and went in on the attack on the first floor and the basement.
Leading up to the events that night with Sean and the Mayday, it looked like we had a pretty good knock on the fire, starting to open up, the rest of the house to check for extensions when the second floor had failed and came down.
Never mind, we have structural collapse, the Alpha Delta, second floor to the first. Mayday, 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 second floor collapse, we're trying to pull it out.
GC, you got one trapped under the chimney,
They're getting him on board and bringing him out.
Anyone's initial thought would be, is it my spouse? And being on that side and knowing what it's like to listen to your husband call a mayday, there is that in the back of your head. I've listened to my husband talking the whole time, so I know that it's not him, which is a relief, but then also, is it one of our guys?
I saw the firemen that were on the second floor through the windows just drop straight down.
It just sounded like a freight train come through the floor.
The sound is something undescribable.
Didn't know what it was, didn't know where it came from. All I know is I was on my ground, I was pinned down, and then it's just kind of gathering my thoughts. What am I gonna do next? Never gave it a thought of the radio, but I was at the window, so I just started flagging down anybody I could find.
I couldn't see any movement.
Yeah.
During the PAR check is when we discovered that it was Sean. And the PAR check basically goes rig by rig, the officer making sure that all are accounted for. And when we got to Squad 88, they had all their manpower accounted for except for one, and that was Sean.
I was pinned just above the knee on my right leg. It just enough to hold me there. So once I came to and I kind of could see things a little bit, I'm just kind of feeling around and I noticed that they were bricks.
It's pretty much a chief's worst nightmare to go through something like this. You feel a sense of helplessness as the incident commander. In this case, it was somebody that I grew up with. Sean and I came up through the fire department together, and to be outside, not being able to be there, to have the discipline to stay at the command post and orchestrate everything to make sure that Sean got everything he needed, that's rough. The feeling of helplessness was definitely something that played in my mind for a while.
I believe it was Chief 7-4 was on my left shoulder talking to me, telling me everything that's going on, telling me what they're trying to do, what they're thinking they're gonna do. He was feeding me air, just kind of keeping me calm. I was calm and collected about it, just get me out of here, that's all I'm asking. And then after a few minutes of them doing their thing, I was like, I'm getting a little warm. I need you guys to get a hand line to me quickly. That's when I started feeling the burn a little bit.
The chief from Elizabethtown that was with Sean kept radioing to me, letting me know what the conditions were and everything like that. I could hear Sean yelling in the background. Some points it sounded a little painful, but that's one of the things that made me keep going, that assured me that Sean was alive. He was well enough that he was yelling, so I knew he was okay so far.
I was confident. These guys go through a lot of training. It's just what we do. They were there. They were there really fast. I couldn't see what they were doing exactly. I have no idea. But I know when I felt the relief of that thing come off of me, I said something to my co-partner there, and he just ripped me in a merry-go-round around the corner and out through the other side. And then next thing I know, I'm on a backboard coming through the wall quickly.
And I stayed at home until Sean was out, and I could get someone to watch our son so I could leave and go to the scene and be with him. So I went immediately to the command post to find Kenny. Once he got a break, I kind of pulled him away so he could calm down and have a minute to himself to process what was going on. He refused to leave. He was not going to leave until everyone came home, or he knew what was going on and that everything was under control.
Yeah, the captain that was involved from Progress that was assisting called and said, "Hey, Chief, you need to come to the ambulance." And I was like, "Okay, like, did something change? Conditions change? What conditions he in?" That's as vague as it was when he said you need to come to the ambulance. And probably one of the most gut-wrenching parts of it all then was hopping into the back of the ambulance, seeing Sean laying there, and he wanted me to come over so that he could apologize and say that he was sorry. And I had asked him for what, and he said, for getting stuck. And I was like, bro, you don't need to apologize for that. And we had our moment, and that's a moment for me and him and nobody else. And I said, we're going to take care of you, and we'll be there through it all.
So what kind of conversation did you have when he came home?
We didn't.
He didn't want to talk about it?
No, it was very somber. He was agitated easily, wasn't eating and sleeping normally. He was waking up in the middle of the night with nightmares, or of course he wasn't telling me that they were nightmares, but I could tell. Just not himself. Complaining of indigestion, heart palpitations, all symptoms of things after a traumatic incident.
We talked pretty much every day while he was in the hospital. It was just when we actually got to see each other in person, you know, it was different. It put it all together. So it was a long day. We got Sean home. Sean's tired. We're all tired. The emotional toll of the day, like you're whooped.
Yeah.
And I had just gotten home. I sat down and just took that first deep breath. And my phone rings, and it's Sean. I'm like, hey, what's up? He goes, you owe me that Stromboli. And I'm like, what? He goes, you owe me that Stromboli. I want to go to the firehouse. I'm like, aren't you tired? He goes, not really. Come get me.